The Nintendo Switch has been a wildfire success on just about every metric. It sells its games in the tens of millions at the highest prices without any sales. And this has been a sore spot for many people who want to dump on Nintendo or talk about the faults of Nintendo. But when you have valuable IPs, you can sell them at high prices. This is something everyone does. PlayStation and Xbox, they do the same thing. Spider-Man was $70. You're not going to get a Bugatti Veyron at the cost of a Honda Accord. It's not how it's going to go. Every business wants to sell their products at the highest prices. If they try to sell lower, it means they don't believe in the value of what they have. Imagine if Tears of the Kingdom or Mario Kart 8 sold at $20. Something like what Pal World did or what Sonic Mania did. Both games sold very well, but they sold at bargain basement prices. Would those games sell if they debuted at $60, $70? Maybe, maybe not. Point is, Nintendo sells their software at the highest price and they still can't keep those things on the shelves. Also, they sell these games in the tens of millions on a single platform. When you look at something like Mario Kart 8, on one platform it sold 62 million copies. There's not going to be a lot of games that can say that. Even Grand Theft Auto, you can't say, well, it sold that many on one platform. It sold the way it's sold because it's a multi-platform game. You can have it on, PC, you have it on Xbox, you have it on PlayStation. You've had it across 3 generations of consoles. You're going to be able to move units when you're being sold and resold so many times. Mario Kart 8, just on Switch, 62 million copies sold. You look at Minecraft, which is the greatest selling game ever. It's on every platform. You can get it on just about anything. And you can get it for as low as $7. Mario Kart 8 still sells at $60. You can probably find it on sale on Amazon for some $10 off, but for the most part, you're paying $60 for that game. And it sold 62 million. And that's not including, the booster pass, which costs another $25. So, it's made a ton of money for Nintendo. And this is how it is for a lot of their games. None of their games are multi-platform. They sell in the tens of millions on one platform. A platform which many people will tell you is underpowered. And again, they sell at full price, no sales. You're not going to find a lot of other games doing that. They're going to have their discounts and all these other things after a while. But to keep these games, these high prices, and they still sell, that means your games have a lot of value. And right now, the Switch sits as the 3rd best-selling console of all time. And as far as software, it's unofficially the best seller of all time. It sold 1.23 billion copies of software. PS2 sold 1.24 billion. Well, it didn't sell it, it shipped it. So we don't actually know how many copies the PS2 sold because they don't report it. They report shipments. They have something where they say they sold an additional 300 million copies of software from 2007 to 2012. And the PS2 was on the market for 12 years. The Switch is about to catch it. And this was without price cuts. Remember, the PS2 was selling for $100 in the latter half of its life cycle. The Switch was $300 when it debuted, and it's $300 still now. Some people might cite, you have the Switch Lite. The Switch Lite is not even close to being the best-selling version of the Switch. I mean, right now, the best selling version of the Switch is the OLED, which is actually more expensive. It's $50 more. But even so, I mean, the Lite is not a price cut. It's a lower variant. You lose a lot of stuff. You lose the docking capabilities. You lose the Joy Cons. So it's instead of essentially having two controllers, mini controllers, you basically have one, and it's tied to that screen. You don't get an OLED screen. You don't get the extra battery life. So you lose a lot with this cheaper variant that's going to cost $100 less and $150 less than your OLED. So it's not really a price cut. They're just selling you a lower spec version. And the Switch is beating out significantly more powerful hardware. I mean, people call the thing a toaster, and in some cases it is. If you're playing third-party games on there, I mean, if you're playing something like Mortal Kombat 1, it'll pretty much look like a toaster. But a lot of their first-party games actually look good. I mean, you look at Super Mario RPG, Mario Odyssey, even Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which push the hardware. I mean, these are very well-polished games. They don't have a bunch of bugs or well, they have their glitches, but they're not game-breaking glitches. They're more like fun glitches. Like, hey, I can go and duplicate as many rubies as I want. You know, something like that. Not something that breaks the game. Very well-polished games. I mean, like Mario Wonder, you know, looks great, runs great. There are some who say that Nintendo's success is due to not having any direct competitor. It's because it's a handheld system. It's not a handheld system. It is a hybrid. You can play your Nintendo Switch just like you would a PS5 or an Xbox S series. You can play them just like that. Never undock it, play it docked, and just play it like a home console. Or you can do it handheld. It offers you that versatility. They're definitely competing. They're competing for in the same market. It's just they're changing the way people are playing games. Everyone can go back to the arcade. Back in the days, if you wanted the best gaming experience, you went to the arcade. You know, you had home ports even back then, but it was at the sacrifice of quality of graphics so you can play it at home, which is very similar to what you do with the Switch. You know, you sacrifice graphical capability because you want to be able to play the game on the go. You know, after, like in the mid-90s, when you had the PS1, the PS2, GameCube, 64, and Dreamcast come out, the arcade scene started to become irrelevant because you could stay home and still get the same experience graphically that you could going and playing on a arcade cabinet. And now we're seeing that's a similar shift right now where people are saying, well, you know, I want to play games on the go now. I want the ability to play games mobily. And Nintendo's at the forefront of changing that. And a lot of people are following. You got Valve with the Steam Deck and Lenovo with the Legion Go and the ROG Ally. You know, it's not so much about not competing. It's about changing the game, which is what Nintendo is doing with the Switch. Switch being handheld is definitely not a gimmick. It's a revolution in console gaming. And console gaming is now being taken on the go. I mean, things are changing like that. I mean, if Microsoft and Sony want to stay in the game, they need to come out with competitive handheld offerings. You know, we know PlayStation tried that, and that didn't really work out for them. You know, Nintendo trampled them in both instances, with the DS and the 3DS going up against the PSP and the Vita. So, I mean, we're just changing the game. Like, we went from going to the arcade to being in your living room to now being in your pocket. You know, the way to do things changes. The Switch is also more profitable than all of their previous systems combined. I mean, they made a ton of money selling their games at the highest prices, never having sales, and they sell in the tens of millions. Every other company wishes they can do that. But the Switch has been able to do it consistently. No price cuts on their games, no price cuts on their hardware. They're still continuing to sell. Because they're at the forefront of, quite frankly, changing the way people play games. The whole concept of home console gaming might be becoming obsolete. Even if they don't get the sales record, which in my opinion is completely irrelevant, the Nintendo Switch is the most successful gaming console of all time.